Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Privrajagacharya Astotra Sata Shishmaras Divine Grace Shila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Privrajagacharya Astotra Sata Shishmaras Divine Grace Shila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivedanta Ki Jai Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol. All glories to Simba devotees, all glories to Simba devotees, all glories to Simba devotees, all glories to the lotus feet of Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. So today we'll be speaking from Canto 1, Chapter 9, and Text 5. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Tatra Brahmarshaya Sarve Devarshayash Cha Satama Rajarshayash Cha Tatrasan Drashtum Bharata Pungavam Tatra Bhamarshaya Sarve Devarshayascha Satama Rajarshayascha Tatrasan Drashtum Bharata Pungavam Tatra Brahmarshaya Sarve Devarshayascha Satama Rajarshayascha Tatrasan Drashtun Bharata Pungavam Tatra Brahmarshaya Sarve Devarshayascha Satama Rajarshayascha Tatrasan Drashtum Bharata Pungavam. Prabhuji's. Tatra Brahmarshaya Sarve Devarshayascha Satama Rajarshayascha Tatrasan Drashtum Bharata Pungavam Tatra Brahmarshaya Sarve Devarshayascha Satama Rajarshayascha Tatrasan Drashtum Bharata Pungavam Tatra Brahmarshaya Sarve Devarshayascha Satama Rajarshayascha Tatrasan Drashtum Bharata Pungavam Tatra Brahmarshaya Sarve Devarshayascha Satama Rajarshayascha Tatrasan Drashtum Bharata Pungavam. Mataji's. Tatra Brahmarshaya Sarve Devarshayascha Satama Rajarshayascha Tatrasan Drashtum Bharata Pungavam Tatra Brahmarshaya Sarve Devarshayascha Satama Rajarshayascha Tatrasan Drashtum Bharata Pungavam Tatra Brahmarshaya Sarve Devarshayashtra Satama Rajarshayashtra Tatra San Drashtum Bharata Pungavam. Word meanings. Tatra, there. Brahmarishayaha, rishis among the Brahmanas. Sarve, all. Devarishayaha, rishis among the demigods. Cha, and. Satama, situated in the quality of goodness. Rajarishayaha, rishis among the kings. Cha, and. Tatra, in that place. Asan, were present. Drashtum, just to see. Bharata, the descendants of King Bharat. Pungavam, the chief of. Translation, just to see the chief of the descendants of King Bharat, Bhishma, all the great souls in the universe, namely the rishis among the demigods, brahmanas and kings, all situated in the quality of goodness, were assembled there. Please repeat. Just to see the chief of the descendants of King Bharat, Bhishma, all the great souls in the universe, namely the rishis among the demigods, brahmanas and kings, all situated in the quality of goodness, were assembled there. Srila Prabhupada's purport. The rishis are those who have attained perfection by spiritual achievements. Such spiritual achievements can be earned by all, whether one is a king or a mendicant. Bhishmadev himself was also one of the great Brahmarshis and the chief of the descendants of King Bharat. All rishis are situated in the quality of goodness, all of them assembled there on hearing the news of the great warrior's impending death. Om Agyantimidandasya Gananjana Shlakaya Chakshudunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupakadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shigudo Shiyutapatakamalam Shri Gudun Vaishnavamscha Shri Dupam Sagrajatam Sahaganadaganatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Prijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha. Hey Krishna Kuruna Sandho Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Godangi Dadhe Brindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpadubhya Ashta Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gauda Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So here we see in this particular section of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhishmadev, the great warrior, the great valiant grandsire of the Kurus, who fought in thousands of battles, conquered thousands of enemies, won glory throughout the universe. Not only does he instruct us in the principles of varnashram, etc., proper behavior, not only does he allay the doubts and anxiety experienced by Maharaj Yudhisthira, but then in this chapter, he gives us the greatest example of how one should leave this world. And here we read in this particular verse and purport how all of these great rishis among the demigods, kings, brahmanas, how they've all assembled in order to see this, to associate with this great Mahajan. And Bhishmadev, it's very beautiful, this vision of Bhishmadev lying there upon the battlefield surrounded by all of these wonderful individuals, including Krishna himself, and the Pandavas have come. Can you imagine what it's like to, devotees are glorious if they leave their body in the holy dham, or maybe the devotees are present, they're chanting. But imagine if Krishna himself were standing there right next to you, looking into your face. And Bhishmadev, as we hear in the 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the best thing one can do at the time of death is focus one's mind fully upon Krishna. This is really the final test for the Vaishnava. And all of us will have to experience this test. All of us here, we're on different levels of age. Some of us are approaching very quickly. Yeah, some of us, maybe it's another 10 years, 15 years, maybe another 40 years. Yeah, but we don't know. It could be coming as soon as we walk out the temple room doors, or even before. You have your cell phone ready, right? 911 or something. So at any moment it could happen. And so we all have to really put our attention on this, that we need to die correctly. We need to be prepared. Yeah? And the entire life of a devotee is really in preparation for this moment, the final test. And so we see that Bhishmadev, as we'll read in this chapter, he has an intense meditation. The way that he fixes his mind on Krishna at the time of death is exemplary. First of all, he thinks of the form of Krishna. Yeah? He begins remembering Krishna and describing how the beautiful form of Krishna is dark like a tamal tree. Have you ever seen a tamal tree? It's almost like black, but it's not a little off black. So Krishna has this absolutely beautiful, stunning form, a lotus-like face, yeah, and this dark, blackish hue like a tamal tree. And Bhishmadev is remembering how he's seen this blackish form streaked with chandan. Those of us, you're familiar, maybe you've made chandan in the pujari room. You can see it's that golden color. So just imagine Krishna's bluish black form smeared with golden chandan, that kind of contrast of colors, and the beautiful face of Krishna. And the chandan is, we smear it on our own foreheads like this, but Krishna, Bhishmadev is describing, he's decorated with chandan. You can imagine, maybe they've made little flowers and things, gopi dots, right? These type of things. So this beautiful form of Krishna, Bhishmadev is looking at, and he's remembering this form specifically on the battlefield. That Krishna, he was carrying in his hand, I think it's his left hand, I can't remember which hand, but he's carrying the reins for the horses in one hand, and he's carrying a whip in the other hand. Yeah, and he's riding through on the chariot, and his hair, Krishna has blackish hair, and he has blackish skin, and yet the dust from the hooves of the horses has been cast up, and it's like an ash which has covered Krishna. So you can imagine the blackish hair of Krishna with this white ash type dust from riding on the battlefield. Imagine if you've seen these pictures, or maybe you've been to like Burning Man or something. You see, people have their goggles and they have dust all over their hair and face. That's what it looks like on a battlefield. You're covered in dust. So this beautiful blackish form of Krishna is covered in the white dust of the holy place of Kurukshetra. Yeah? And this beautiful form of Krishna, beyond that, Bhishmadev goes into meditating on the qualities of Krishna. It's not just the beautiful form of Parthasarathi. He's meditating on why Parthasarathi is there, why Arjuna's friend Krishna has taken this role. He's Achyuta, he's infallible. He never fails, he never falls down. He's never brought below anyone, and yet he's deliberately taken the position of Krishna, of Arjuna's charioteer. This was the meditation of Bhishma, right? This is what it means to understand the absolute truth in the highest level as Bhagavan. Bhagavan means that you understand Krishna's personality. And so he's really meditating deeply on the qualities of Krishna, who Krishna is as a person. Yeah? And so who is he as a person? Well, he's the best person that you can imagine. Like his personality, you couldn't find a nicer person, right? Like really, if you're looking at who is Krishna, if you met Krishna and interacted with his personalities and experienced him, you would never forget that he is the greatest, most wonderful, most humble person that you could ever imagine. And so this is how Bhishma is remembering him, that he is actually, even though he's the Supreme Lord, even though he is the absolute truth, he's taking this humble position of Arjuna's charioteer. And within the Vedic culture, the charioteer is considered quite low. It's like your servant, or like someone you keep in your home. Like Prabhupada would marvel that John Lennon had a driver who was just dedicated to his service, waiting there all day. Only a rich man can do this. So that's sort of like a charioteer. It's almost like an Uber driver or something, right? So, so Arjuna, Krishna is in this taking this very humble position out of love for Arjuna. In fact, Prabhupada mentions in the Bhagavad Gita, Achyuta means he never fails in the affection for his devotees, right? And so this quality of humility and this sweet love for his devotees, this was Bhishma's meditation while looking into this face of Krishna and remembering his form on the battlefield. And he was also remembering that when Krishna was on the battlefield, he was always absorbed in protecting Arjuna. This is kind of interesting. If you think about it, like what was Krishna doing while he was riding the chariot? Bhishma saw, personally. He saw this, that Krishna was absorbed and sort of like focused on how to protect Arjuna. Like tender, just like a tiger may protect its cubs or something, right? Like constantly absorbed in protecting Arjuna out of love. And Bhishma saw this, And so he's remembering this quality of Bhakta Vatsal, this love that Krishna had for Arjuna. And Arjuna is Bhishma's own grandson. These relationships are very intimate. Bhishma's a Mahajan. He's a great personality. He's a pure devotee. And he understands also that Arjuna is a pure devotee. This is Naranarayan Rishi. And they've taken this form of Krishna and Arjuna, and now they're this unstoppable force upon the battlefield. And he sees this great love that Krishna has for his own beloved grandson. And so there's this very intimate meditation on the love between Krishna and Arjuna. And so also he begins meditating on his own on the pastimes of Krishna, and specifically his own personal intense experience with Krishna on the battlefield. Those of you who've been in Srivas Prabhu's office, you've seen that beautiful painting. It's probably like one of the most beautiful paintings you could ever see, this BBT painting of Bhishma on the battlefield and his moment with Krishna. And so we see that he's remembering this moment at the time of death with great devotion. What happened, of course, as we've heard, is that Krishna had vowed that he wouldn't enter the battlefield. He wouldn't fight no matter what, right? So, just as Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, he was feeling great doubt and fear and a lack of, not fear, but a lack of willingness to fight those who he loved out of compassion for them. So, and Krishna had warned him that this is actually, those individuals in the battlefield will think that you've left out of cowardice only, or that you'll not actually fight just because of your own weakness, Hridaya Daurbalyam. And for those who have been honored, infamy is worse than death. So similarly, we see that Bhishma, he was being criticized in the same way, for the same thing by Duryodhana. And so he had actually vowed that unless Krishna himself stops me from killing Arjuna, I will kill him tomorrow, right? And so in order to, for quite a few reasons, but in order to protect Arjuna and in order to honor the vow of Bhishma, Krishna himself broke his own vow. In fact, if you think about it, Krishna and Arjuna were so powerful that it's like they themselves could practically destroy the whole army of the Kauravas, and nobody can stop them. And Krishna himself is using Arjuna as an instrument. This is God fully empowering his devotee to actually fight as a kshatriya and destroy the enemy. And he's using him as his tool to lighten the burden of the demoniac kings who have taken birth upon the earth. And so this tremendous force, yet Bhishma is so strong and so powerful that he actually forced his way into that and fought with Arjuna so tenaciously. Actually, Prabhupada mentions in a lecture that he destroyed his chariot and completely devastated Arjuna, to the point that Prabhupada mentions, Arjuna was one moment before dying. And so in this condition, Krishna was forced to actually jump down from the chariot and put himself between Arjuna and Bhishma. And Bhishma didn't let up. He just kept firing his arrows one after another right at Krishna. And Bhishma's remembering that these arrows are hitting Krishna and Krishna's wounded. There's blood that's flowing and Krishna's becoming angry. And there's this intense competition between Krishna and Bhishma. And so this competition is actually, Prabhupada also mentions later on in the chapter, that the competition is actually another expression of love between the devotee and the Lord. Right? It may appear that they're enemies, it may appear that Krishna is being wounded, but in fact, the Supreme Personality of Godhead can never be wounded, nor is the devotee can ever be his enemy. And yet they're taking these roles out of a loving exchange. And so Krishna was actually enjoying when these arrows are being fired at him, and he's experiencing, Prabhupada even mentions, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says in his commentary, that Krishna was experiencing the arrows as if they're the kiss of a lover, or the bite of a lover, right? And so there was this intense exchange of affection, and Bhishma Deva is remembering this with great love and devotion at the time of his death. Krishna jumped down from the chariot and he charged Bhishma just like a lion charges an elephant. And he lifted the wheel of the broken chariot, right? He lifted it above his head just like a chakra, and he came flying at Bhishma, and Arjuna grabbed him and tried to hold him back. But actually Prabhupada mentions that even though Arjuna was holding on to Bhishma, or to Krishna, and trying to hold him and refrain him from killing Bhishma, still it was like just like when a lover is running to see the beloved, he cannot be stopped, right? You cannot check them. So similarly, Krishna was charging at Bhishma with great love and affection and intensity. And in the midst of this, one of the garments of Krishna fell. And this is very significant, because really out of anger, the garment had fallen, and it mentions Krishna did not even realize that it had fallen. Right? This means that Krishna was so absorbed in the pastime that he forgot everything else. He was just completely absorbed in this intense moment with Bhishma. And so this is the moment that in Bhishma, of course, he opened his arms and actually welcomed Krishna to come and attack him. Please, my Lord, kill me now, right? And of course that didn't happen. But Bhishma was remembering this at the time of death with super intensity. And then he was also remembering certain other pastimes of Krishna. As we hear in the Bhagavad Gita, Bhishma Drona Pramukataha, right? The chariot was brought right before Bhishma and Drona. And the Bhagavad Gita was spoken right in front of Bhishma. He was sitting there watching, like front row seats, right? And so he was remembering this whole experience between Krishna and Arjuna, this discussion. And he was also there at the Rajasuya sacrifice, and he was remembering when Krishna was worshipped by all the individuals in the assembly. So all these different remembrances of Krishna were flooding his mind at the time of death. And in this way, finally he just looked towards Krishna and absorbed him in him with great love. And then it mentions that just as he left his body, and then just as in might find like on a summer day, the birds are chirping and everything, and then as the sun sets, it becomes very quiet. So similarly, the whole battlefield, everyone that was there watching, they all became very quiet. And there's like this moment of silence for the passing of this great soul. And then finally, all of the people on the battlefield began banging drums and going, Haribol, Haribol. Right? And then showers of flowers started to fall from the sky, and you could hear celestial drums beating. And so this is the perfect example of how one should leave their body in Krishna consciousness. Okay? So we're going to end there. Are there any comments or questions? No? Okay. Yes, Prabhu? Sure. So the question is, are there any other ideal examples of leaving the body as Bhishma does? And yes, there's Haridas Thakur, right? You see in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, even when it mentions the passing of Haridas Thakur, it says the devotees were reminded of the passing of Bhishma, right? And he also had the good fortune of sitting, my dear Lord, what is the news, right? Lord Chaitanya arrived, and he asked Haridas Thakur that. Haridas Thakur said, whatever mercy you're able to give, right? And so, and it had been some time that Haridas Thakur was actually, sort of coming towards death, and he was lamenting that he was unable to fulfill his vow he has his tremendous vow of chanting so many rounds, and he considered himself to be like in Maya, and the Lord told him that, don't worry about it, you're doing what you can, and so he was chanting his rounds and everything like that, and then finally the day came for him to leave his body, and he had the great fortune of actually putting the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya on his chest, and directly looking into the face of Lord Chaitanya when he left his body. And then the devotees in Puri, they threw a great festival, right? And they took the body of Haridas Thakur to the ocean and washed it and installed it in a samadhi in the sand. So I'm sure it's maybe still there. The samadhi of Haridas Thakur is there in the beach somewhere. Right? Yes, Vas Prabhu? Sure. Hmm?
There was there going through a lot of suffering, a lot of pain, but regardless of that, he still had darshan with devotees. Still, he would give instruction. He was translating Srimad Bhagavatam and fighting on like a real warrior for Krishna. Very powerful. So we can only imagine the pain. I had heard that even the doctor said that the pain that Srila Prabhupada was having was inconceivable, how he wouldn't take any medication for it, but just keep trying to keep alert and to guide us even in those last moments, days of his life.
Thank you. Yes. Just for the devotees online, so Savas Prabhu was mentioning the passing of Srila Prabhupada and how Srila Prabhupada was in the midst of great suffering physically. Of course, as a pure devotee, he was above such suffering, and it was miraculous, and yet he made an example to all the devotees. Yes, Prabhu?
Thank you very much for the wonderful class. So it is said in this verse that even great rishis and sages from the universe, they were coming to see the passing away of Bhishma Dev. So I'm just wondering how those rishis get the message that Bhishma Dev is going to pass away.
Well, cell phone. It doesn't matter. I don't know. It doesn't mention anywhere, from what I've seen, of how they get the message. We see that they're incredibly powerful. Like Sanjay is blessed by Srila Vyasadeva to have transcendental television in the heart. So it's certainly within the purview that these individuals have the power to know things and understand things in a supernatural way. But I've never heard transcendental communication, but I've never heard of like any sort of system of communication or anything like that. Yes, Prabhu?
He's describing the passing away of Bhishmadev, and in that lecture Srila Prabhupada describes that when a great personality or a pure devotee is leaving their bodies, if all the great sages and rishis from the whole universe comes to witness that, and at that moment when Prabhupada is describing that, he started choking, he went into emotions and he couldn't speak more. So I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you. Is there anything else? Okay, thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.